Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations, continuing on another Narrative Pro series with the inventory system. So, we're going to go ahead and jump right on in and creating our master items. So, obviously, you have right here the clothing, the equipment, which is like rings and necklaces, consumable items, and then the four weapon types. Um, you have magic, melee, and ranged, and then the base. So, this is the parent. Um, this parent, the parent of this one, is the parent of these guys' parents. So if we come in here to better help you guys understand, come to blueprints, just type in here weapon. Scroll down here. So if we look at this right here, I'm gonna minimize all of these real quick. We have weapon item. This is narratives. Same with magic weapon, melee weapon, ranged weapon. These are all narratives. I created my own master for if I decide to create my own weapon type. So bows and arrows aren't currently in the game, so I may want to do that. Or if I want to have like a mid-range type of thing, I would need to create my own there. So he provides the option. And then you come down here. Here's where my child is of the magic. So we need to create all of our masters. It's important to do that. So if we go ahead and let's open up the weapon master here. I'm gonna. This is how you'll see it. We'll start with the basic. This is the basic weapon master. So you'll notice that this has a whole bunch of items here. We'll first go over the item equipable and the item section because this is the same between all of these. All of these right here will have this stuff. So AI, so the equip score, very important to know. The higher it is, obviously, the higher the chance of an NPC going and grabbing it, picking it up, and then equipping that specific item. So if you are wanting to make sure that your world feels more realistic, you need to make sure that you have this system set up exactly how you want it. So I would build up on this um, so that you're not having to manually place it. What I mean by that is on begin play, having this equipped based off of some sort of functionality that you have created. So if it's a rare, then it's 10. If it's a master, I don't know. So it changes for you. Otherwise, you can just manually place it. It's not that huge of a deal. You can also have a uh, children of this one that is basic, normal, rare, legendary, whatever. It's really dependent on how you want to parent everything. So with that information in mind, we're not going to do that. I just want to make sure you guys knew that was there and how that works. Now then, for item, you have right here pickup mesh. It's important to note that weapons, generally speaking, use skeletal meshes, and that is true for Narrative Pro. Everything that they have provided for us uses skeletal meshes for the weapons, and that is okay. But they have a static mesh for optimization purposes to be placed into the world. With that being said, you then can choose the thumbnail, the sound on use. So, when you equip it or whatnot, that's what'll happen. This is all pretty self-explanatory. Now, the UI thing, this can be a little complicated to understand, but as you saw in my first video, I will show you how to set this up so that it's not hard to understand. And then we have here what it does, consume on use, which we don't want to consume it, used with other items. So if there's something else that's needed in order to use it, so think sword and shield. If we check mark this, then it's going to look for those things. I haven't messed with this myself yet. Use action text, equip. So you'll notice when you go into the inventory and you mouse over things that can be equipped, it'll say equip. If it's something that can be consumed, it'll say use. And then another AI section, activities to grant. I don't know why it's under AI. Um, AI that acquire this item will have these activities added to themselves whilst they have the item. Okay, so this one is specifically for the AI. Oh, yeah, because right here. Now that we're done going over everything that is the same between all items, we'll go into what's different. So for weapon, you have for item equipable. Um, this will be the same for quite a few of the other items we go over, but not for all of them. We have the equip slot, equipment mod GE. We will be touching on this in the next episode. It's very important. The GE handle, again, in the next episode, very important. Attack rating, armor rating, stealth rating. This right here uh, goes deeply into how the gas system works with this gameplay effect, which is what GE stands for. Um, so we will be touching a little bit into that in the next episode, simply because you all need to understand how this works for your own game. That being said, the next thing you have here is abilities. So if you want, say, just like in Baldur's Gate 3, when you equip a weapon or an item, sometimes they'll have an ability, and you are now granted that ability, and you can now use that ability while you have this equipment equipped. Um, the functionality is already there for you, so if you have it equipped, the abilities will be granted to you to utilize. If it's not equipped, then it'll remove it from your the ability for you to use. Now then, this right here should give you a massive hint. Weapon visuals. So this means that all of these are data only. You cannot place these in the world. They hold the information because the way that it looks out in the world is dependent on what is currently happening. Is it on the ground, or is it in the player's hand? Or is it in an NPC's hand, or is it in a chest? If it's in a chest, all you're going to see is the data. So that's why we have this. You can choose, where was it? The weapon visuals. You set this all up that way. If it needs it, it will find it. These are all soft referenced. So very minimal as far as cost. So anim layers. This is how you control how the player or NPC looks while they have the weapon equipped. If I'm not mistaken, you can set it up to where it also has it to where it controls how they look when it's unequipped, but you'd have to mess around with that yourself. And then form specific layers. I have not played with this either, but it's important to make sure that you take a look. Oh, form specific layers. That's what that means. Male, female. That way, if there's differences, you can have them. Because that's what this gameplay tag right here is for. So you would, yep, male, female. That's what they have right now. And then weapon visual class. So what does it look like? Again, we'll be going over these once we dive deeper into how the narrative has theirs set up so that we can play around with those. What weapon it's equipped to. The attached bone, so hand R, so it's in the right hand when it's attached. When it's holstered, they have socket underscore holster. And then offsets if you need them, which you shouldn't, not if you set everything up correctly. Now then, we come here to attack settings. We have attack damage and heavy attack damage multiplier. These are all set up in the equipment mod, and we can show those off later. And then attachments. Attachments is another really cool thing that allows for even more customization of your weapons, and then also allows you to, what's what I'm looking for? Allows you to, further change the appearance and even um, give additional stats and abilities and whatnot. That's something that Reubs goes over in his videos. So I'm not sure if I will touch on attachments themselves, at least not until I get into it myself, because this is more along the lines of teaching you about the system in a slower pace and a smaller chunks. So now that we have that covered, we can now go on to the others that are completely different. So, shockingly enough, all of the weapons have something different. We're in the Weapon Master. So if we come over here to the ranged one, what's different here is in the weapon configuration. So we come down here and look at this. So if it has automatic fire, fire rating. So here's where all the differences are. IK weapon effects, the trace data, because they don't use, for this specific weapon style, they don't use bullets. They use traces. Now, I'm assuming when they go into making a bow and arrow that they will be using a projectile. At which point, if you wanted to have guns that had bullets, I'm sure you could modify the bow and arrow to do that. But for the sake of this, that's not what matters. That's not what we're doing. They just use trace data. If obviously, if you are wanting to do things like bullets, that's why you have this normal master one here. You could recreate everything that's in here, minus the trace, and get a projectile made and do all the math there. Whether it's in C++ or Blueprint is up to you. But essentially, that is the how everything works here with the ranged weapons. Quite frankly, I'm okay with it because, let's be honest, bullets are fast. And for anyone who knows anything about having projectiles moving extremely quickly, is they're not always reliable. And what I mean by that is we have an item here, let's do a comment. You know what? I can just hold down C. There we go. So here is the character that we're shooting at. We're shooting in this direction. So in one frame it's right here, and in the next frame it's right here. So the system wouldn't even register that the bullet hit the component, the player. That's what you can run into if the bullets are too quickly or too quick. So you would need to do additional math. I'm not saying that they won't do it down the road. Just for now, everything is set as trace because logically it makes more sense. If you're wanting things more realistic, like Battlefield, you'll need to play around with everything and make alterations to make that happen. For like bullet curvatures and whatnot. Now, if we open this back up and we come in here into Melee, the difference is here. Again, it's called config, but you get to set up the traces and then attack combos and heavy attack combos. Now, don't get excited. This isn't like combo trees where you hit X, X, Y and get something different. They haven't gotten that complex yet. I have heard that they are working on massive improvements for Melee and Magic for the next update. So I'm holding my opinions until I see what they have there. And that's what's different in Melee. Now, speaking of Magic, if we come in here into Magic, for right now, what they have for combat is attack combos and heavy attack combos. Again, we should see some changes in the next update, which should happen in the next few weeks. Finally, we can get on to the other things. If we come here into the content drawer, we have these last final things here. If we open up this, this is the consumable one, and it's quite literally... Oh, that's right. This is how theirs comes. Let me reset that. Interesting. Anyways, set by collar values. This is how I got the idea for what we're going to be creating. But anyways, they have their own item gameplay effects. So what happens when you consume it? Does your damage go up? Does your attack rating go up? Your damage go up or down? Because you can make it a negative. Sneak, stamina, XP if you want them to gain some experience from consuming it. So that's what's different about this. It's literally just that. This is all you get for the consumable. Now then for equipment, we have here equip slot. Like I said, this is for things like rings, necklaces, trinkets, things um, that won't be seen, but can be equipped. Again, for the AI, that way, if you want the AI to make the decision whether they equip things that they pick up or not, um, if you're wanting that kind of complexity, you can. They have by default their attack rating, armor rating, and stealth rating. Again, for those who have their own attributes that they're wanting to add in the future, this won't necessarily, sorry about that, this won't necessarily work for them. But again, I will be showing that off in depth when we get to working on gas, because there's a plugin that allows us to add our own attributes for those of us who don't go into C++ if we can help it. Lastly is the clothing, which I have right here. I will not touch upon this until the next episode. But again, for clothing, ignore this. This is for a future episode. It's very similar to the equipment mod. The only difference is we come here to, not to the equipment mod, the equipment master. Come on down here. Come here to this one. Let's bring this over here. That's the pickup mesh. The difference is right here. Item equipable is not here. Well, you have the AI, so the AI can choose to equip something, but outside of that, you don't. This is where you get the skeletal mesh. Changing the materials if you want to change them. Morphs, if your characters have morphs, that way it tracks that and keeps a hold of that information. So yeah, that's the difference. They did a very good job at keeping everything just where it needs to be. There are things that are shared between like melee and magic that aren't necessarily needed. Excuse me, not melee magic, melee and ranged. What I mean by that is in the melee you can also have projectiles, and that's really good for those who like to have like sword guns and things like that. Um, Games that come to mind are like Final Fantasy has that. So that there are things that are still kept between both classes for the simple fact of the developers knew that that would be necessary. So thank you guys so much for watching. We will now definitely be getting into this in the next episode and creating our own bit of information so that we can see it in the UI. See you soon.